Sometimes the most broken people find each other in the darkest moments, and together they discover that healing isn't about fixing what's shattered, it's about learning to hold the pieces together. This is a story about two strangers who had given up on life until fate brought them to the same bench on the same rainy night. If this story touches your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales that remind us we're never truly alone. The rain fell like tears from the sky that October evening, washing over the empty park where Emma sat on a wooden bench, staring at nothing. She'd been sitting there for over an hour, soaked to the bone, but she didn't care anymore. At 28 years old, she felt like her life had already ended. 6 months ago, she had lost her mother to cancer, the only family she had left. 3 months ago, her fiancé had left her, saying he couldn't handle her grief anymore. Last week, she had been let go from her job due to budget cuts. Emma felt like the universe was systematically removing every reason she had to keep going. Her fingers trembled as she held a bottle of pills in her coat pocket. She had been holding them for an hour now, working up the courage to swallow them all. The park was empty. No one would find her until morning. Maybe that was better. Maybe everyone would be relieved not to deal with her sadness anymore. Just as she pulled the bottle from her pocket, a voice cut through the sound of rain. "Mind if I sit here?" Emma looked up to see a man standing beside the bench, rain dripping from his dark hair, his eyes hollow and distant. He didn't wait for an answer before sitting down, leaving a respectful distance between them. He stared straight ahead, just as she had been doing. Emma quickly shoved the pills back into her pocket. "There are other benches," she said quietly, though without much conviction. The man let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, but this one has the best view of nothing." He gestured toward the empty playground ahead, swings swaying in the wind like ghosts. They sat in silence for several minutes. Emma wanted him to leave, but part of her was relieved not to be alone. "I'm Lucas," he finally said, still not looking at her. "I come here sometimes when home feels too loud." Emma didn't respond. She didn't have the energy for small talk. But Lucas continued anyway, his voice barely above a whisper. "My wife died 2 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver walked away without a scratch. She was pregnant with our first child." Emma's breath caught. She turned to look at him properly for the first time. His face was gaunt, his eyes red-rimmed, and there was a profound emptiness in his expression that she recognized because she saw it in her own mirror every day. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and she meant it. Lucas shrugged. "Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't bring them back. Sorry doesn't make the nightmares stop. Sorry doesn't make waking up feel worth it." Without thinking, Emma found herself speaking. "I lost my mom 6 months ago, cancer. I held her hand when she took her last breath. Then my fiancé left because I was too sad for him. Then I lost my job, and now I'm sitting here in the rain, wondering why I should bother going home." Her voice cracked on the last word. Lucas finally turned to look at her, really look at her. For the first time in months, Emma felt seen by another human being. Not pitied, not judged, just seen. "Were you about to do something stupid?" Lucas asked gently, nodding toward her pocket where she'd hidden the pills. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't speak, but she nodded. Lucas closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Yeah, me too." He pulled a bottle of whiskey from his jacket. "This is my third one today. I was planning to make it my last by finishing it with these." He showed her his own bottle of pills. They sat there, two broken strangers, each holding their chosen method of escape, rain, pouring down around them. Then something unexpected happened. Lucas started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the kind of laugh that comes when life becomes so absurd that crying no longer suffices. Emma found herself laughing too, tears streaming down her face, mixing with the rain. "We're a mess," Lucas said between laughs. "We really are," Emma agreed. They laughed until the laughter turned to sobs, and then they just sat there crying in the rain, two people who had nothing left to lose. When the tears finally subsided, Lucas spoke. "I have a crazy idea. What if we make a deal? Let's not do this tonight. Let's give it one more week. 7 days. If after 7 days we still want to end it, we can come back here. But for 7 days, let's try something different." Emma wiped her face, though it made no difference in the rain. Like what? Lucas thought for a moment. Let's be each other's reason to get through the day. No pressure, no expectations, no judgment. Just two people who understand how dark it can get. We check in on each other. We show up. We try. It was the most ridiculous proposal Emma had ever heard. A stranger asking her to stay alive for a week. But something about it made sense. She didn't have to pretend to be okay with Lucas. She didn't have to explain her pain or justify her grief. He already understood. Okay, she heard herself say. 1 week. They exchanged phone numbers before leaving the park that night. Emma walked home in the rain, the pills still in her pocket, but somehow they felt less heavy. The next morning, Emma woke to a text from Lucas. Day 1, I'm still here. Are you? She stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Still here. Barely, but here. They met for coffee that afternoon, not because they particularly wanted to, but because they'd made a promise. They sat across from each other in a small cafe, both looking exhausted, neither trying to hide it. I didn't sleep last night, Lucas admitted. I kept thinking about Sarah and the baby. I kept wondering what she would think of me for what I almost did. Emma stirred her coffee absently. I keep my mom's voicemail messages. I listen to them every night. Her voice is starting to fade from my memory, and it terrifies me. They didn't offer each other empty platitudes. They didn't say everything would be okay. They just listened. And somehow, being heard was more healing than any comforting lie could have been. Over the next few days, they continued to meet, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for walks, once just to sit in silence in the park. Emma learned that Lucas had been a high school teacher but had taken leave after his wife's death and never returned. He spent his days in his apartment, surrounded by memories, unable to move forward or let go. Lucas learned that Emma had been a graphic designer who loved painting but hadn't picked up a brush since her mother died. She had pushed away everyone who tried to help her, convinced that no one could understand her pain. On day 3, Emma had a panic attack while they were walking. The world suddenly felt too big, too loud, too overwhelming. Lucas didn't try to calm her down with words. He just sat with her on the sidewalk, his hand on her shoulder, letting her feel what she needed to feel until the storm passed. On day 4, Lucas broke down at a grocery store when he saw a woman with a pregnant belly. Emma found him sitting on the floor in the cereal aisle, tears streaming down his face. She sat beside him, not caring about the stares from other shoppers, and waited until he was ready to stand. On day 5, something shifted. They were sitting in Emma's apartment, and Lucas noticed her art supplies gathering dust in the corner. "When did you stop painting?" he asked. Emma shrugged. "When color stopped making sense." Lucas walked over and picked up a brush. "Teach me. I don't know anything about art." Emma almost said no, but something in his hopeful expression made her stand up. For the next 2 hours, she taught Lucas basic painting techniques. Her hands shook as she held a brush for the first time in months. The colors looked different than she remembered, duller somehow. But as she guided Lucas's hand across the canvas, showing him how to blend shades, something inside her stirred. A tiny ember of the person she used to be. On day 6, Lucas took Emma to his apartment for the first time. It was exactly as she'd imagined, frozen in time, filled with photos of a beautiful woman with kind eyes. "This is Sarah," Lucas said, pointing to their wedding photo. "She made me want to be a better person. She was everything good in the world." Emma looked at the pictures, at the nursery that had been prepared but never used, at the life that had been stolen. "She must have loved you very much," Emma said softly. Lucas nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "That's what makes it so hard. I had everything, and then I had nothing, and I didn't know how to live in between." Emma understood exactly what he meant. "My mom used to say that grief is love with nowhere to go," she said. "I never understood it until now. I have all this love for her, and no one to give it to." Lucas looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Maybe that's what we do with it. Maybe we give it to people who need it. Maybe we let our grief connect us instead of isolate us." On day 7, they returned to the bench where they'd met. It wasn't raining this time. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. They sat in silence for a long time, both of them acutely aware that this was the day they'd agreed upon, the day they would decide whether to keep going or give up. Emma pulled out the bottle of pills. Lucas pulled out his. They looked at each other, and Emma saw her own struggle reflected in his eyes. "I'm still sad," Emma said quietly. "Every day I wake up and the first thing I remember is that my mom is gone. That I'm alone." Lucas nodded. "I'm still angry. I'm angry at the driver who killed my family. I'm angry at God or fate or whatever decided that I had to lose everything. I'm angry that I have to wake up every day and choose to keep going." They sat with those truths between them. The pain hadn't disappeared. The grief hadn't lessened. But something had changed. "But," Emma continued, her voice stronger now, "this week, I also felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt seen. I felt like my pain mattered to someone. I felt less alone." Lucas smiled sadly. "Me too. For the first time since Sarah died, I had a reason to get out of bed. Not because I wanted to, but because I knew someone was counting on me, because I didn't want to let you down." Emma looked at the pills in her hand. "What if we make a new deal? What if instead of 1 week, we try 1 month? We keep showing up for each other. We keep being honest about how hard it is. We stop pretending we're fine, but we also stop giving up." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked to the nearby trash can, and threw his pills and whiskey away. Emma watched him, her heart pounding. Then she stood up and did the same with her pills. They stood there, two broken people who had decided to try living, at least for another month. Lucas pulled Emma into a hug, and she clung to him, both of them crying, both of them scared, both of them choosing to be brave together. The months that followed weren't easy. There were days when Emma couldn't get out of bed, and Lucas would come over and sit with her in the darkness. There were nights when Lucas had nightmares about the accident, and Emma would stay on the phone with him until dawn. They attended grief support groups together. They encouraged each other to go back to therapy. Slowly, painfully, they began to heal. Emma started painting again. Her work was different now, darker, more raw, but it was honest. Lucas eventually returned to teaching, finding purpose in helping young people navigate their own struggles. They celebrated small victories together. Emma's first gallery showing, Lucas's first day back in the classroom without breaking down. The day Emma could talk about her mother without crying. The day Lucas could look at Sarah's pictures and smile at the memories instead of drowning in the loss. A year after they'd met on that rainy bench, they returned to the park. This time, they brought flowers. Emma placed hers for her mother. Lucas placed his for Sarah and their unborn child. "Thank you for giving up with me that night," Emma said, taking Lucas's hand. Lucas squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for choosing to stay." They had both learned something profound that year. Healing doesn't mean the pain goes away. It means learning to carry it differently. It means finding people who can help you hold the weight when it becomes too heavy. It means showing up for yourself and for others, even when every fiber of your being wants to give up. Emma and Lucas had found something unexpected in their shared darkness. Not romance, though they loved each other deeply. Not salvation, because no one can save another person. They had found witness, they had found companionship, they had found proof that broken things can still be beautiful, and that sometimes the people who understand you best are the ones who have been shattered in similar ways. Years later, they would both look back on that rainy October night as the night their lives truly began. Not because the pain ended, but because they learned they didn't have to face it alone. Two broken souls who healed each other, not by fixing what was broken, but by accepting the cracks and finding beauty in the mosaic they created together. If this story moved you, remember that your darkest moment might be the prologue to your greatest chapter. You never know who needs you to stay, or who might be waiting to help you carry your burden. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel, because every story shared is a reminder that none of us are alone in our struggles. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply choose to see tomorrow.